In this video, we are breaking down the 10 mindset hacks you need to end self-sabotage today. If you don't know who I am, I'm Luke Anning. I have a top 2% podcast called The Happy Positive Energy Game, and I help online business owners end self-sabotage once and for all. So we're going to get into it. This is going to be 10 mindset hacks, and I want you to write these down because these are going to be key. So mindset shift number 1 is self-sabotage is not your fault, but it is your responsibility. Now, I used to think that I was the laziest person in the world. And no matter how much I wanted success, I kept avoiding the things that I needed to do. And then what I realized was that self-sabotage isn't about discipline. It's about your nervous system protecting you from failure, rejection, or discomfort. Growing up, I had a lot of trauma. And a lot of us have grown up with a lot of struggles within ourselves. And one of the things that really slapped me in the face, and I'm going to give you a trigger warning, was I saw one of my abusers in the gym. Back home, for context, I had some sexual abuse happen when I was 14, 15 years old. We won't get into the thick of it, but yeah, it just led to me being sexually assaulted, sexually abused. And yeah, it was a really tough moment in my life. And I didn't really realize the depths of struggle that it had until I really realized, especially up until about 22, 23, I actually didn't trust men whatsoever. I couldn't hang around with men. I struggled with building connections, and that impacted my business. It impacted things with clients. It impacted so many different areas of my life. And I ended up seeing this guy in the gym. And at the time, I messaged my coach. I was like, oh, I've just seen my abuser. Like, I want to go up to him and I want to do this and I want to do this and I want to do this. And she said, was that going to help you? And I was like, probably not. And she was like, okay, so what will help you? And I was like, probably just grounding myself and realizing that that thing happened, but I don't need it to take over my life. I don't need it to, end things just here. And what that allowed me to do in the moment was realize, oh, I'm self-sabotaging with all these relationships with men because I'm still allowing this person to have control over me. So what I've got to do is take my power back by taking responsibility and saying, okay, this thing happened and I may have had a problem, but I'm also the solution. So that's mindset hack number 1, is realizing that it doesn't matter what happened to you. It's not your fault, but it is your responsibility to change it. So that's number 1. Number 2 is clarity kills self-sabotage. So the times in my life when I sabotaged the most were the times I had no clear vision, no direction. So my brain just defaulted to distractions. These looked like at times, like whilst I was university, I would smoke weed every single day, and I would hang around just other people that smoke weed and weren't really going anywhere in life, and most of them were dropouts. And I needed to actually have some solid plans behind me. It was the same when I had the business as well. Like, I remember having 3 businesses at once. I had network marketing, I had my my second coaching business around mindset and confidence, and then I also had the podcast that I was running as well. And juggling all 3 of these things at once just made me feel so overwhelmed all the time. And because I was overwhelmed all the time, then I would self-sabotage more. Like, I would act out, I would do all these dumb things that just didn't help me, including smoking weed still at the time as well. And what I realized that I needed to do was, once I set clear, compelling goals and created structure for myself, my brain stopped resisting all the progress. And here's the facts. If you don't know exactly what you want, your mind is going to create reasons for you to stay stuck. And This is also where I started getting learning deeper about addiction cycles, and how even if you don't have, like, a hardcore porn or drug or alcohol or phone addiction, you're still addicted to your self-sabotage in some kind of way. And this is where I started learning about green circle activities, which were things that I could do instead of fill my time with self-sabotaging scrolling or self-sabotaging staying up late, because I was uncomfortable with my emotions. So that's where it really helped me, is learning how to get green circle activities in my life, things that actually were beneficial, that meant that I wasn't self-sabotaging, and having clarity on those really helped end self-sabotage for me. Mindset shift number 3 is you don't need to feel ready. Action creates motivation. So for a long time, I used to wait for motivation before taking action. And when I learned deeper about how it is with ADHDers, especially ADHDers have lower dopamine access available to their brains. So it means that oftentimes they don't get dopamine hits until they actually start doing the task themselves. And that's why when they start doing tasks, they feel distracted. They need to pick up other things because the dopamine hit of starting that task isn't a big enough dopamine hit for them to stay on task. So actually, what I realized that I needed to do was force myself to start even when I didn't feel like doing it, and keep taking action, keep taking action, keep taking action. And that allowed me to keep giving myself dopamine hits. And that actually was the motivation mechanism for me right there. And what I realized was within minutes, the more I took action, the more I felt energized. And that's when I learned action comes before motivation. Because if you wait to feel like you're ready, you're going to stay stuck forever. So why you just need to end up doing the thing. You just need to start doing the thing. Like, you just need to kind of, like, Richard Branson um has this mantra, which is screw it, let's do it. And you need to have a screw it, let's do it attitude if you're going to get past self-sabotage. Like, it needs to be like, hey, we're getting going. Mindset shift number 4 is your brain lies to you under stress. So I used to believe my negative thoughts, like any negative thoughts that came up, I was like, oh, that must be real. Like, I'd hear, you're not good enough, you're just going to fall, you're going to fail. You always mess things up, you always fuck things up, nobody cares about you, all sorts of different things. And when I started diving into learning more about self-sabotage and how to overcome it, I realized that when you're under stress, when you're in fight, flight, freeze, fawn, when you're triggered, your brain will lie to you, just straight lie to you. Um, and also, there's something with ADHDers called time blindness, where ADHDers typically have a lack of urgency when things are going on. So it's so critical to have external accountability and external deadlines that feel real, and then you can actually move through whatever you're struggling with. But it's the same with the negative thoughts as well. You need to have a deadline for actually changing these. You can't just say, oh, you know what, I'll fix that later, or oh, I'll come back to this. No, you need to have a hardcore deadline of like, hey, this is going to be when I work on my negative thoughts. Each and every week for me, I have a day where the first 1 hour of the day, I actually just focus on what are all the negative thoughts and negative beliefs that are coming up, because these can build up. And sometimes you're just, you're operating in your day to day, or you're driving. So you don't have a moment to sit down and say, oh, well, what's the difference in this negative thought? Is this actually true? No, like, you need to actually have those conscious, intentional moments. And that's where I like to have external accountability for me. For me, that's my personal assistant holds me accountable, but that's because I've trained her under my methods. So it's the same for you. You need to have deadlines for yourself, for when you're lying to yourself. You need to bring yourself back into reality of when you are working on your self-sabotage. Mindset shift number 5 is if you always wait until the last minute, you're craving pressure. So I thought I had a procrastination problem growing up. But then when I looked deeper, I realized that I work best under higher stakes. And it's kind of a challenge because Oftentimes when I was playing sport, I would make a mistake. I remember this one game, we were playing our varsity game, I think it was. It's a defensive position, and I didn't go back into my coverage, and that led to them, gaining 20 yards up the field. And I made that mistake. And then the next play, I went back into coverage. They threw the ball back into my area, intercepted the ball, and we got back possession of the ball. And then we were able to drive up the field and end up scoring when we swapped from offense to defense. And I realized that I thrive under pressure, which is great. But what I needed to realize as well, like I need to create some artificial deadlines in my business because beforehand, I would tell my clients, I would tell my team, like, oh yeah, like I'm gonna get this stuff done by the end of the day, but it would be such a loose, out of integrity deadline that it never actually fulfilled. So what I needed to do was sit down each week and create deadlines for when things needed to be done. And then I had external accountability to always allow me to follow through. So instead of fighting it, I just created artificial deadlines. And then that having that awareness allowed me to turn my self-sabotaging patterns into a strength. So you want to think about yourself with the patterns that you have right now. Could you start, if you're somebody that puts some things off until the last minute, could you create some more intensive deadlines and make that real for yourself by telling other people? Could you tell other people like, hey, if I don't get this done by X time on X day, I'm going to pay you $100. That could be something that you do. So actually create yourself real deadlines here. Mindset shift number 6 is your identity controls your success. So I used to believe that I was genuinely just a lazy person and that I couldn't get things done, or that, there was just so many limiting beliefs. And I used to see myself as someone who struggled with follow through. So no matter how many strategies I had or tried, my actions always aligned with that identity. So what I had to do was over time, I had to change the way that I spoke about myself. Instead of saying I'm not disciplined or I struggle to get things done or I can never follow through, I started saying I'm becoming the type of person who follows through. I am a man of integrity. When I follow through with my integrity, my entire life gets better. And over time, my actions started matching my new identity. And also, and this was really fucking hard, I started congratulating myself at the end of the day. Like literally, I put up an Instagram post today because I'm going through another identity shift at the moment where I'm actually not having to work super hard for me to be as successful as I am right now. Like I really don't have to do that much to make 50K a month. And it's a bit of a mind fuck, to be honest. But I actively said on my story, I'm proud of you, bro. And that's something that I'm starting to do every single day because I, in my past, struggled to congratulate myself. And because I never congratulate myself, I would find different dopamine places in the day to get my dopamine. And that was usually scrolling my phone or watching porn or just doing things that didn't help me. And yeah, that's just not a vibe. So we're not about that. So mindset shift number 6 is your identity controls your success. You have to change your language so that it's in alignment with the identity of the version of yourself that you want. Mindset shift number 7, you're not overwhelmed. You lack prioritization. So I used to constantly feel overwhelmed. I'd wake up to a never-ending to-do list. I get stuck in analysis paralysis. And then I realized I actually didn't have that much to do that actually moved the needle forward. I just didn't know what mattered most. So I would just be doing multiple platforms, giving myself extra work, even though I didn't need to give myself extra work, and just really stressing myself out. But actually, I realized I actually just need to learn the skill of prioritization. It's one of the skills that we teach internally with our clients. But to keep it simple for you guys, I implemented the 80-20 rule. So focusing only on 20% actions that created 80% of the results, rather than doing my 80% actions that would create 20% of my results. And once I stopped trying to do everything and just did the most important needle movers, well, I found like my cash flow just went up so much that I could just delegate all these small other things that didn't need doing. For example, like I don't even manage my editing team right now. I promoted one of the editors. She builds the systems And then she communicates with the editing team if things aren't as I would like them for my Instagram or my YouTube. Like she goes ahead and does that for me. And whereas I could go and do that and I could spend an hour reviewing everything and then I could ask them and then I could schedule it and I could do all the little bits and tweaks. But I'm just like, we have a system for it. So I just give it to MJ and then MJ handles the other communications for me. And I could do those things before, but I would just be overwhelmed. Now, don't get me wrong, I still had to take a ton of action and figure out those systems in the first place, and I had to go through the overwhelm. But after I got those things done, I was just like, oh, I just need to prioritize now. I just need to do these things, and that's it. I don't need to do anything else. Why would I? So that's what you've got to start doing with your self-sabotage is stop treating everything as equally important. Just do the most important things. That's it. Don't do anything else. And what you're going to find is that's going to give you the mental clarity in your day to day to open up more room for you to operate like a CEO rather than just acting like a worker. Rather than working in the business, you can just work on the business. So mindset shift number 8 is self-sabotage feeds on isolation. You cannot fix it alone. I used to get in this self-sabotaging mechanism all the time. It's kind of ironic. This is how the pattern happens is you'll initially have something, you'll maybe set a big goal, and then you start rushing to do it, and things start going well, and then one thing goes wrong, and then from there you start self-sabotaging, you start going into a guilt spiral, a shame spiral. Yeah, you self-sabotage. But what this can also look like, and then what happens is you get back to that aspect of like, oh, I need to set a big goal again, and then you're just in this like cycle. But what can also happen in the cycle is you do really well, you actually follow through and you don't self-sabotage, and then you celebrate your success. But because you have an internal state of being unworthy, when you celebrate, you self-sabotage. So I'll give you an example. I had just come through a new certification for emotional release and learning about nervous system work. And this was back in September, and I went out to celebrate with some people from my Muay Thai gym. And I was specifically said that I wasn't going to drink. I ended up drinking. So that's self-sabotage number 1. I already broke my word and broke it in integrity. And of course, now I've had alcohol. So now that affects my prefrontal cortex and my decision making. So I had more alcohol, more alcohol, more alcohol, more alcohol. And this is why I don't drink, because it just leads to not good things. And yeah, ended up going on a night out, buying tons of drinks for other people. Like I managed to spend like so much more in Bali than you would ever need to spend on a night out. Ended up going back with somebody that was just not on my caliber of people that I would even consider going back with, let alone like going back with people like, I could have got her pregnant, like just we don't need to go there. But it was chaotic. And I ended up isolating myself. So I went out, I had that night, I woke up with a person, I was like, Christ, I like can't believe I've gone back with this person. They left, and then I ended up saying, right, I'm gonna isolate myself in this place called Ubud, which is in the jungle, in the rainforest, and I literally completely isolated myself. I starved myself for 3 days, fasting to get myself back on track. And I got myself back on track and I got myself moving, and that was good. But what I realized was now I was isolating myself. So anytime that something would go wrong, I didn't have a support system to check base with because I'd isolated myself. And what I needed to actually do, and I realized this when I met my girlfriend, was I needed somebody there to talk about not my problems necessarily, but just to talk about day-to-day life, talk about what had happened. Like isolating myself and lone wolfing it wasn't working. And then when I moved back in, and then I got myself a coach at that time as well. And I also got myself involved in like a brotherhood meetup every Saturday here in Bali with a load of other men. And that allowed me to let go of shame, let go of guilt, let go of just heaviness that I was holding from having isolated myself. So yes, the isolation helped me not be around people that didn't serve me. But at the same time, because I was isolated, I was self-sabotaging more when I was by myself, and then I didn't have a support system. So it's so key that within your self-sabotage that you go and get support, whether that's a coach or whether that's people around you. I would say preferably a coach who knows what they're doing. Hi. But even if it's outside of me, you need to have somebody who knows what's going on with your brain. And can help you decode that and unpick it and help you build long-term strategies to end self-sabotage for sure. Okay, mindset shift number 9 is rest is a strategy, not a reward. I used to think that I had to earn rest. I used to think that I had to work myself into the ground, and then anytime I took a break, I would feel guilty. And this is part of the identity shift that I'm going through now. Like I'm used to in the past taking Thursdays off and Sundays off and that being fine. But now I'm finding that I can take pretty much any day off that I want to, so long as I don't have things in my calendar. And it's a little bit of a mind fuck for me, but actually it allows me to think more like a CEO, hire the people that I need to do the work rather than just grind myself out and do it myself. I don't need to do that. And I've realized that the times I perform best were actually after I've intentionally rested. So when I had my Sundays off, I would always come back on a Monday and just go, 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 go. And I think it's important to have a go, go, go day and important to have rest days. But especially as a high achiever, your brain is still going to be going. It's still going to be thinking about the vision and achieving things. But if you give yourself no space to actually think, then you're going to be still caught up in the busy work that doesn't actually grow you. So I stopped treating rest as a reward and started scheduling it as a non-negotiable part of my success. And when I did that, I got more done in less time with way less burnout energy. So that's mindset shift number 9 is rest as a strategy, not a reward. And mindset shift number 10 is ask yourself, what's the alternative? So when I started my business, there were days that I wanted to quit. There were days that I spent in bed and didn't want to get out of bed. There were days when I started working in pajamas and didn't get myself moving. There were days when I didn't want to go to the gym. There were days when I sacrificed my relationships. But when I thought about giving up and when I thought about the things that I was doing that were sabotaging my success, was like, well, if I don't change this now, like, what's the alternative? Like, am I going to keep going on like I have been? Like, am I going to keep showing up in my pajamas? Am I going to keep showing up as my not best version of myself? Like, what's the point in that? Like, what's the alternative? So that question made things very, very clear that staying the same really wasn't an option for me. If the only way out of your pain is going to be to move forward, and when you realize that, you have no other choice but to succeed. So if any of these mindsets hit home, let me know in the comments which one you needed to hear today. And if you're ready to break free from self-sabotage once and for all, I've got something that will help you. What you can do is check out this next video on my channel. It's my neuropsycho visualization. And this will actually help you rewire your brain for success. It's completely free. And I would highly recommend that you start getting yourself into it so that you can rewire your brain for success as somebody who doesn't self-sabotage. So with that said, I hope you have an amazing rest of your day, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.